short tutorial about soldering. Okay, you got a soldering iron, there's that there, some solder, a sponge, desoldering pump. It's a little bit of solder that I'm going to use that I've already taken out of that container. Right, first thing I'm going to do is tin the bit, clean it as well, but tin it. So you get the sponge, you dampen it. Don't drink that water, by the way. And you clean it, apply a bit of solder. Just heats up there and burns off, you can see it. Make sure the solder tip of the bit is completely clean. And wipe it off on the damp sponge. And then repeat. I like to do it 1 or 2 times because a tinned bit, a well-tinned soldering iron bit is vital if you want to actually successfully solder. Okay, I've taken this old piece of salvaged circuitry from goodness knows what. I'm just going to start by stripping a couple of wires of their insulation using the snips there, but you can use anything. I twist the wire so that all the loose sort of threads are all twisted together, and it'll be nice and clean when I get around to soldering them. It's a fancy strippers I sometimes use, but you can use anything you want really, provided it gets the job done. Also make sure your hands are clean when you're doing this, because any muck enters the equation and it just makes it really difficult for the stuff to solder successfully. So I've got 2 bare ends of wire that I've stripped of insulation and twisted, and what I'm doing now is I'm heating the wire, anchoring it first of all in a piece of blue tack. Very useful thing to have on the bench is blue tack. Keeps the wire still. So you can see me just applying some heat to the bare piece of wire and some solder, and I'm just spreading the molten solder around the piece of bare wire there, and giving it a good coating of solder. Now I'm going to repeat the process, but I'm going to be using the other piece of wire. There we go. Clean the muck off the soldering iron, just make sure it's clean. Do the same thing again, apply some heat, then apply the solder, and you'll have a tinned piece of wire. Tinning is a very important thing when working in electronics, you know, the actual practical side of things, because, well, it just makes soldering an awful lot easier. Okay, so I got these 2 pieces of wire, bare-ended wires, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a good strong mechanical joint between the 2. So I'm bending the tip of the wire there, one of the wires with the pointed nose pliers, and the other one as well. I'm joining those 2 things together and ensuring that there's a strong mechanical joint before I apply solder to it. It's just the way I learned it, and it's, you know, after 30 years it seems to be working okay. It's the right way of doing things as far as I can tell. Now I'm using my blue tack again just to keep things steady. Make sure that that mechanical joint is good and strong there. And now apply heat from the soldering iron again, and almost instantly the solder will melt onto the wires that you're soldering, and this is mainly because of you having tinned them, and look how strong that is. It's just completely strong. Okay, clean your soldering iron again, get all the muck off the top. Now something else we'll do just briefly. I want to get some of the components off this board. There's some nice diodes on there and they could be useful for another project. So what am I going to do? There they are. There's 4 of them. And they're very handy things, diodes. Very handy. So I locate where they're soldered on the back of the board, and there they are. There's the little pads. That's what those are called, pads. So you apply heat to them. And with the desoldering pump, which is like a bicycle pump in reverse, a spring-loaded bicycle pump in reverse, I get it ready by pushing down the plunger, and then there's a release button which sucks everything up into the body of the pump itself. It's a very useful tool. I didn't get one for a couple of years into electronics, and I don't know how I ever managed without one when I eventually got one. Some people use braid, but you know, I'm not a big fan of it. You know, it's horses for courses, really. Anyway, so as you can see there, I'm heating up the joints on the back of the circuit board, and then once the solder is molten, I take the desoldering pump tip, place it on the molten piece of solder, press the button, and it sucks it up straight up into the body of the pump. You can do that a number of times until you've removed all of the solder from the back of the board, from those pads, which are holding in place the components which you want to salvage from your piece of whatever it is, hacked hardware. So, here we are. There's 8 pads to do there. And it's important to do this properly if you can, because as we'll see in just a couple of seconds, there's a little bit more that can go wrong if you don't do it properly. So, we've got all those components desoldered at the back of the board. Now, I go to the front of the board, take the pointed nose pliers, just firmly grip the wire that's holding it in place, and there it is. Out comes one, and out comes another, and another. But this one, and guess because I was in a bit of a hurry making the video, is I didn't desolder it properly at the back. And what I'm doing is I'm ending up sort of damaging the component, pulling it apart. So I've lost a diode there. So just to atone for my sins, I'm going to do it again. Apply some heat properly this time. And desolder. And then I take the board and I can remove with the pointed nose pliers the little piece of wire. And there you go. That's all I ended up getting, and not the diode I wanted. Anyway, that's basically giving you a rough idea of how you solder and desolder, and I hope it works out for you. I think that's it. Yeah.